Hey guys, Everett Smith from Douglas Solomon Real Estate, and thank you again for tuning into my channel, Easy NYC Real Estate, where I make New York City real estate easy for you. In this episode, I get into it with my buddy Stone from Rampart Insurance Group, who talks to me about the wonderful world of insurance and why it's important for homeowners, landlords, and even tenants. And please don't forget to like this episode and subscribe for even more content in the future. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, you ready?
Ready, let's do it.
Awesome. So today I am here with Stone, a good friend of mine and old schoolmate. He works in insurance, and I wanted to bring him on today because there's a lot about insurance that I don't know, right? I'm not dealing with it every day. And part of me getting him here today was to engage him, to ask him, some of these questions that I had on my mind and may also very well may be on your mind. So first of all, Christian, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let me know if I've missed anything important.
Hey Everett, thanks for having me. It's good to catch up, and I'm more than happy to share my knowledge with you. And just to give you a little bit about myself and what I do. So I'm a full service insurance broker, second generation. Both my parents are brokers as well, and I work for a privately owned brokerage headquartered out on Long Island, and we have additional offices in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. We're called Rampart Insurance, and we're good at what we do.
So is there a specific type of insurance that you normally work with, or do you cover everything?
So we cover everything. So pretty much we do personal, commercial, we do employee benefits, and we also do life insurance.
Okay. Now, do you have clients in the city or?
I do. I have clients in the city and I have clients in a lot of different states. We're able to write in many different states, but most of my clientele are in the city. We represent some of the best carriers in the game. We represent Pure, Chubb, AIG, Travelers, and there's many more carriers to go. And these partner we have great partnerships with them and great relationships, and we understand the needs of our clients.
It's always about the clients at the end of the day. Why is it important to have insurance? And we'll just keep it on a general level for right now, because I know that there's homeowners insurance versus renters insurance, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I wanted to just go out there generally, why should I care?
So you should care because it really packages in your necessities. So your basic renter's policy, your basic homeowner's policy, you have your liability limits in there, and your personal liability is one of the most important things. God forbid somebody gets hurt in your apartment when you have friends over or just people over in general, or it can even come down to you doing damage to a unit below you, and you're deemed responsible. And then also you have instances where you might have jewelry or engagement rings or watches or fine art, and that covers it as well.
Let's say my laptop, which is just in my apartment, happens to get some water damage, right? Like what's actually covered versus, what could be considered fraud or just like a bogus claim.
Well, I mean, it really comes down to the insurance carriers when it comes to a bogus claim. They do their due diligence and they have experts in the field that come out and inspect claims. So it really is on a case by case basis. And it also depends on the individual. You have some people that spend 5 to 10 grand on laptops who seriously use it for certain different industries, and you can schedule those on. And you have people that might be in photography who spend that amount. And you have cameras and you have video equipment. So it really depends on the individual.
Tell me a little bit more about like what comes in a homeowner's policy.
So what comes standard in your typical homeowner's policy is you have your dwelling limits, which is the structure of your home and what it costs to rebuild your home to the state it was, prior to if it burned down to the ground. You have your personal property, which is your contents inside of your home. And the best way I like to explain contents to somebody is, it's what you take. Let's say if you take your home and you turned it upside down and you shook it, everything that comes out of your home, will be considered contents. Given that, if you are, like an art collector, somebody that has, significant items of value in your home, we can get into that later, which is, scheduling it onto your valuable items policy. And, it's a little bit more in depth.
I like that analogy, shaking it up and see what falls out. Let's dial it back for, some of my tenants out there that might be watching this. What about renters insurance, right? Why is that important? And first of all, because it's almost mandatory in every lease,
Yeah.
that you have to get some sort of
Mhm.
policy, and some landlords will even request proof of it
Because it's important, it's really an essential need, that one of the biggest things, like I said, the liability aspect of, all these policies, it's so important for somebody to carry liability. You just never know what's going to happen. And, God forbid a claim does arise, you don't want to be left without protection. And then also, who doesn't want to protect their stuff? God forbid there's a fire in the building, you don't have control over everybody else that's in the building with you and what they do.
Very true. Very true. My downstairs neighbor setting off the smoke alarm every day kind of gets me nervous sometimes. So, having that renter's insurance can definitely make me feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact of, I can't make sure that everyone's a great cook. You know what I mean? Um, so that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Is there anything that's usually recommended or that you would always recommend in the city?
Depending on the lifestyle of the individual and what you have going on, a basic renters policy will definitely do. And just making sure that you have adequate limits and you're properly insured. You could have a renters policy for, a unit that you're paying, 2 grand a month and you have about, 500, 600 square feet. But then you also have people that do have rentals where you have, excess of 10,000 square feet or excess of 5,000 square feet, where, the exposure drastically changes because, you have more square footage and you open yourself up for more liability because you're likely to have people of some type of notoriety come over, or somebody can get hurt. Your lifestyle really depends. It really depends on your lifestyle and what you do.
Gotcha, gotcha. And that, I mean, when you're talking about 10,000 plus square feet, right?
Mhm.
I usually think commercial space when we're talking in Manhattan, but there's like they said, the townhouses or
You have your
the
you have your townhomes and things of that nature, and you even have sometimes where you have where it's not unheard of where we see a lot of clients that have homes in Westchester and that's their primary, and then they have a secondary location in the city. So it's all different ways, and it really just comes down to the lifestyle of an individual and what they do.
I want to get into something that might be a little bit more in depth.
Sure.
And I think that's coming from the perspective of the landlord, right? When you're renting out a property, or like
Absolutely.
you said, you have that second home that you're renting to a few different tenants.
Mhm.
What sort of policies there do you think make the most sense for landlords?
I mean, just having a property policy and your general liability is most important. And a lot of times what you really see with landlords is that, the biggest thing is that they're doing construction in a lot of these places where they might purchase a investment property or an investment townhome or an investment unit. And a lot of them are not getting proper policies for the subcontractors and the contractors to come in and do construction, which leaves a huge
Hmm.
liability exposure on the owner. Some people want to cut corners, and it's not advised at all. It can be very costly.
Interesting, interesting. Do you have any examples or any stories of where someone might have caught costs?
Absolutely. I deal with it all the time. And, I'll give you an example. So right now I'm dealing with somebody who has two investment properties, and, they're doing construction in one of the properties. And I just happen to ask for, a review of your current policies. And there's actually a lot of exclusions that are actually not to the benefit of the owner of the investment property. And, God forbid if somebody gets injured on that work site, or, the work being done hurts somebody that's occupying that space when completed, the owner could be, on the hook. Your basic liability policy wouldn't cover it. You have to underwrite the risk based on what's going on. You can't, when you insure properties,
Mm,
you have construction going on, you can't say, yeah, we're just going to be purchasing this place and we're just going to be renting it out. You have to be fully transparent with your insurance companies and your carriers and your brokers and let them know, hey, I have 6 months of renovation going on, or I have, a year of renovation going on. I'm doing a gut reno and I'm, taking down a wall and I'm doing this. It's important to always keep your broker informed and, to properly address the risk that's being presented.
understood, understood. And that totally makes sense, right? Like if I'm not doing something in my apartment on the regular basis that needs to be insured for. Work from home and home workouts aren't nearly the same thing as ripping out a new kitchen and messing with the plumbing. And, what could happen as a result of that is what you're saying is what needs to be covered for.
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. Got it. So I want to kind of dive into a lot of people are price sensitive, right? And a lot of people will ask you like, how much is this going to cost me on the regular basis? Is there a certain deductible that I have to worry about? Can you touch a little bit on that for me?
Sure, the deductible really comes down to the, just to what an insured can handle. And as in short, I mean, just somebody that's going to be purchasing a policy, it really comes down to what they can afford. If somebody can afford to, come out of pocket for, a loss for 5 grand or lower, or, 10 grand or lower to help mitigate some of the costs. And then, also people also look for a lot of carriers offer credits. You have protective devices credits where, you might live in a dormant building and,
Mhm.
sometimes we have where, you live in a condo where you have to take an elevator, which is keyed in order for you to get inside your unit. Or, even for a home, you have your alarm systems and you have your backup generators. A lot of carriers give credits for multiple different things.
When you're working with someone in particular, obviously understanding what they need, will you look into some of these things to try to see how many credits that they can get potentially?
Absolutely. We always work on behalf of the insured, 100%. You always put our client first and make sure that you have all the proper protective devices. And if you don't, we're happy to make recommendations and, we have the resources to make sure that you get properly protected in those areas.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So let me ask you, what can someone expect from the process if they were to engage you? So, me and them, we found the home, we found the perfect home. They're
Mhm.
ready to move in, and they realize that they need home insurance, but they don't really know anything about it. They don't have any recommendations. Just describe the process for us. What can we expect?
Sit down and we just go through a really just an underwriting process. And just for me, not even an underwriting process, more of a conversation is what I like to call it. A conversation about you and your lifestyle and, what are your plans and, what are you going to do to the home? Are you purchasing the home to, further do some renovations? You might want to want to put in a new kitchen, a new bathroom, or, you just want a turnkey place where, you just walk in and you just live. So it really just comes down to just the individual and just meeting their needs as we see fit and going out to our carriers and going through the process of obtaining quotes that are cost effective but also making sure that policy limits are sufficient enough to fit their lifestyle.
Is there usually a timeline for how long that usually takes? Is this something that I should do before I lock in my new home, or is this something that I should do after? I know for renters insurance, it's a little bit, usually you have to get the spot first before you can start putting your address on things, but what about for a homeowner?
I mean, same thing for homeowners. Usually, a lot of times, I deal with a lot of the loan officers or the mortgage brokers, and they'll send me the loan information and when their closing dates are, and it leaves us more than ample time to do it. We usually turn quotes around in 1 to 2 days. We usually just our partners at the carriers, and we deal with the underwriters there. My marketing team is fantastic at what they do and turning around great quotes. And it
Nice.
wouldn't be an issue at all. Communication is key. I tell people all the time. You have to pick up the phone, or somebody else is going to pick up the phone for you, for your client as well.
Do you have anything that you think is super important that the world should know?
I mean, as we ramp up and a lot of people are working from home and it's, we're getting into the colder months, a lot of people are operating businesses from home and, I think that one of the most important things for you to consider or look into is cyber liability. We hear about a lot of the larger businesses and we hear about a lot of the largest law firms and the large companies, but we don't talk about, the smaller law firms and, the smaller doctor offices and the consulting businesses that, need this coverage, in the event that they're hacked or, sensitive information is stolen or their systems are locked out by, ransom. So it's really important to think about right now.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that because I wouldn't have had any idea. Cyber liability.
So cyber liability is, basically coverage in the event that, let's say you run a business and you have sensitive information where you're holding people's credit card information, you have their names, you have their addresses, you have where they work. God forbid somebody, locks down your system and says, okay, we need $25,000 in order for you to get this information back, or they lock you out of your system completely. You can't operate your business or you can't work. Or for example, you have, your accounting department and let's say you receive an invoice and you think it's your CEO or you think it's your CF, or you think it's somebody from the outside that's saying, okay, it's time to pay an invoice, and you send the wire off and you don't realize that it's the wrong email address. This is a coverage that helps reimburse and helps mitigate that exposure, and something for a lot of people to really think about. As online sales are going up and people are really online based because a lot of face to face is really died down due to COVID. So that's really something that a lot of people should really look into and really consider, for their safety as a business owner and for safety for their clients as well.
I think that's a super great point. Even though our servers and most of our systems for Element is kind of pretty much all online. Um, I'm just thinking of the personal stuff that I do or that I print out or that I'm working on my computer that I need to get backed up or I need to make sure that, if something was to happen, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that offline maybe, but with everything happening with the pandemic, is there anything COVID related that we should be aware about or that we should consider while going and engaging with you for a policy?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about something coming up with something COVID related, I mean, not really. One thing I can definitely suggest is, wear your mask and, stay 6 feet apart. And be as safe as you can, But
All right.
I think that one of the most important things right now is just making sure that you review your policy limits, make sure that, you have, proper coverage, you have everything in place. And, one of the things is don't ever hesitate to ask a question. If you don't know something and something seems off to you, or you might have a question about a coverage or a price, just always ask, and you can never go
Awesome.
wrong.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Christian, where can people ask for you or ask questions from you?
They can shoot me an email. I guess when we publish this or when this goes online, you can put my email in the contact, or they can reach me by phone. My cell number is 516-567-0365, and you can call me. I'm always available around the clock, so feel free.
I really appreciate your time today and hope to definitely do this again sometime in the future.
Thank you for having
Awesome,
me.
Christian.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for coming, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Wasn't that awesome? I know I learned so much about home insurance, and I really hope that you did too. I know that there's going to be a lot of things that I can take back with me for my clients as we go to lock in their homes in the future. But what about you? Do you have any outstanding questions for Christian or I as you go to lock in your new spot? Feel free to reach out with the information in the description below. And thank you again for tuning in to Easy NYC Real Estate, where I make New York City real estate easy for you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I can't wait to see you in the next one.